So let's get right into this. So this is the new forecast that we are coming out with here at EF Meteorology, and we really hope that you enjoy this. It's really fun to make, and we are super excited to see, what all we can find out about the weather and provide for you all. So, looking at this first map, this is our temperature map for Monday, and most of the country is either in like the 20s, 30s, or you're up in the 60s in the south. There is a kind of cold front building along that goes from really northern Pennsylvania all the way down to the Oklahoma and into Arizona, and that whole entire line is going to have either snow on the back side of it, or ahead of time on late Sunday night we have this rain that's coming through and a lot of wind. So that's all kind of associated with that. The really cold and surprising factors are Nevada, Eastern California, and into parts of Wyoming. Most of these areas have temperatures in the teens, so be ready for that and make sure you are bundled up. So, the groundhog did say that we're going to have very spring-like temperatures, and you're going to see this week that does support that. In a lot of places, we're going to have temperatures that are unseasonably warm, and in a lot of other scenarios, they're going to be cold, but they're just not as cold. So, we're going to look at these through Monday through Wednesday, and so let's go ahead and check out, how much snow we can expect to be seeing. A lot of snow recently in the northern parts of the U.S., so let's see if any snow ends up coming further south. Okay, so looking at the snow, as you can see, parts of the corner of Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming, we're going to see some of those 12 plus inch totals, and then everywhere around there, we're probably going to see more of like a maybe 5 to 8 in most places. Now, there are a few specks that maybe you can't see on in that exact corner there because of the outlines, but that is where that 12 plus is. Now, most of the areas outside of that, as I said, are going to be 8 to 12, but expect maybe like 1 to at least 8 in most regions around there. And I mean, looking to the west a little bit into parts of California and Nevada, really the only places that are having some of those higher 3 to 5 snow totals are going to be in those higher elevations. So, other than that, expect maybe less than an inch of snow, or maybe an inch in most places. Looking over to the east, we have 1 to 3 in northern Pennsylvania and the western part of New York. So, maybe some snow over there. Who knows how much we'll get, but it should be somewhere in that 1 to 3 category. And then looking into the northeast, really, we have that less than 1 inch, going a little bit east of there. And that's all associated with some snow coming out of Canada. But expect most of the snow to stay north, and the whole rest of the country will be experiencing either a calm day or maybe some rain involved. So, going forward to Tuesday, I mean, a lot of the same to expect. I mean, the exact same temperatures, everything north of really that Kentucky and all the way over to Oklahoma. Everything north of there staying about the same. But whenever you go south, that's where we start seeing some of those differences. So obviously, Florida is still going to be in the 70s, but now we add in all of Louisiana and basically the south and central part of Texas. Those will be in the upper 70s, and so we can expect some rain and some other events to possibly produce. So not huge big systems, but maybe a quick rain shower in the afternoon if the dew points will allow it, which the temperatures are warm enough and there has been enough precipitation down there recently that we can expect some of those. And looking over to the western part of the country along the west coast, we are still seeing temperatures in that 40-degree range. So I mean, kind of plan like what you did on Monday, but for Tuesday, have the same clothes ready and prepare about exactly the same. So overall precipitation for most of the country is going to be either rain or snow. Looking here on Tuesday, really, I mean, we're looking at that same situation as snow in Colorado, parts of Kansas, and most of Nebraska and southeast Wyoming. Just some snow there. We'll get into the totals of those here in a minute. But then you kind of have a gap. That is the southeastern part of Kansas, and that gap is kind of that cold front that's coming through. You can just kind of see it, and ahead of it we have those rain showers, and then behind it we have snow. Now, we do have, rain entering the Midwest and in the Ohio Valley, and parts of the east and into Virginia. But something to really look at is going to be the thunderstorms that are going to be produced in the eastern Oklahoma, most of Arkansas, all of Mississippi, and all of Louisiana. Stay tuned for more on that here in a second. But we do have really a severity index on that because, it's from that warming the day before that allowed some of those dew points and moisture to enter in the atmosphere in Texas. All that moves east, and we're going to see some thunderstorms that we will get into here in a sec, and what all those are going to entail and what to prepare for with those. But really expect a soggy day across most of the South, and snow pretty much in the Great Plains. Snow totals, we're looking at probably most likely 8 to 12 in the Four Corners, and then we're looking at that, 5 to 8, well, I guess it's really 3 to 5, and then 5 to 8 up through Colorado and Wyoming. Once again, elevation is really the driving factor behind the snowfall amounts, but pretty much everywhere around it, expect, less than an inch to maybe 1 to 3, and, you can see over there on the west that anything that really is left over is going to be starting to melt at this point. So that's why we have less than an inch of snowfall total is going to be an overlap from the night before. Now, looking at the parts of Nebraska and stuff, don't expect a major snowfall event by midday. Only expect about less than an inch. Parts of South Dakota and even the panhandle of Oklahoma and Texas, go ahead and prepare for, less than an inch or maybe an inch of snow. We'll see how much of that sticks because of the high temperatures, but it's really going to be something of, what it sticks to. Who knows? That could be roads, so always be prepared, drive slower, and stay tuned to your local forecast for exact amounts. So as I mentioned about the thunderstorms, we do have a very specific severe threat. So looking at the map right now, you can see, you got that marginal and slight severity split. Now, marginal means, we're going to call that general thunderstorms right now. So most of Arkansas and eastern Texas, we're just going to see some thunderstorms. Maybe a chance of them being severe, but the Cape levels aren't high enough at that time of day for when those storms are going to be in that region for too much production. Maybe one storm, but that's about it. But as we go east into Louisiana and then the western part of Mississippi, notice about the slight. Now, this is a 15% chance of severe storms, and the National Weather Service has predicted that. But in my opinion, personally, whenever they put those out, there's definitely going to be thunderstorms and some severe weather. So expect, heavy winds, a lot of rain at once. We might see one tornado warned storm. Do not take my word for that, though, because, the atmosphere is right for a single storm in this environment on the western part, but on the eastern part, we could see maybe 2 or 3. So, the Cape levels are higher at this point. It's entering a very unstable atmosphere, meaning it's going to become more unstable, and it'll strengthen. So really, there's nothing to cap those systems whenever they're going through. So it's kind of unlimited development. So just prepare, have your weather radio, and stay tuned to the radar on your local forecast and news stations because they're going to have that live data and information. But it's good to just know ahead of time that you have a chance where you're at. Wednesday, we are seeing, those 70s in the along the panhandle of Florida and in Florida, but most of the country, other than that, we're experiencing temperatures, Colorado and Wyoming, you're in the single digits, and then almost the entire country, other than that, are in the 20s and 30s. Looking to the west, you have some temperatures that are, 10 degrees in places, in parts of Nevada and Utah, but then looking at the western coast, we're looking at some 40s. Right along that cold front there, we're going to have 50s. So really, if you're southeast of the cold front, you're going to have those 60s and 70s. And then if you are west or northwest of the cold front, then we're looking at temperatures in the upper 30s and very low 40s occasionally. But it's another day to really get that jacket out. And, you might get a few flurries in between. So it's definitely unseasonably warm overall until these systems come through. And that's something that's so fascinating about this year. It takes these big systems to get down to average. So expect very average weather for So, looking at your Wednesday forecast, we're going to see some rain start to enter the very northwest part of our country. We're going to see some snow affect parts of eastern Montana and the middle of Idaho, and also eastern Washington and Oregon. Now, that is associated with a high pressure that is going to be moving through at that time. So, it's going to kind of act as a cold front slash warm front, where ahead of it is the cold, and then to the west and south of it, we're going to get some rain. Then looking across, we have that southeastern part of Texas. Behind the cold front is going to be a lot of that snow that's going to be going on. So you don't expect a crazy amount, but it's going to be snowing. Most of Iowa, eastern Kansas, and then parts of northeast Oklahoma, we're going to have some snow. And just a little bit east of that is where we're going to have that rain. So expect freezing rain in many places. In the areas of western Illinois, Montana, Missouri, eastern Oklahoma, and then occasionally in northeast Texas can the temperature drop. So expect that. In eastern Pennsylvania, you'll also note that we have that touching of the snow and rain. So expect some freezing rain in places like New Jersey, New York, some of those places where we could get some of those temperatures that are just right for that freezing rain to be falling in and sticking to everything. So, looking at everything else, really south of the Ohio Valley and parts of Kansas, West Virginia, Tennessee, and then everything south of there, we're going to have some rain. Note the thunderstorms that are in the far eastern part of Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi, and then reaching into portions of Alabama. And all of that is going to be contributing thanks to the Cape and the higher levels of moisture, and that's really going to take us to that severity level that could get us a few tornadoes. So all the discussions right now are talking about some severe storms being produced down there. So same thing with from Tuesday to Wednesday. Just be cautious and be looking at your news companies and everything that you have, so you can stay safe and be notified when. So really, our snowfall amounts are quite interesting. So we have that snow I talked about that's going to be, on that freezing rain line. And looking at Washington and Northern Oregon, we're going to have that 12-inch plus there right in the middle, and then 8 to 12 around it. But really expect 3 inches or more if you're in the state of Washington or north part of Oregon. Most of the country into the Great Plains across the Rockies expect less than an inch of snow, maybe a little bit more with elevation. But with parts of Nebraska, you can expect, that 1 to 3, and then much of Oklahoma and Kansas expect 1 to 3 also. So something interesting, some lake effect snow, obviously, from looking across the Ohio Valley and into Pennsylvania. You can see, less than an inch a little bit north, and then 1 to 3 really everywhere else, except for places that are, right along the lakes. Then you can expect maybe 3 to 5 at the most. So nothing really south of there, but it's all lake effect driven. So snowfall-wise, most of the country is going to be getting something. But the severe storms are going to not allow any of that cold temperature differences to be diving south. So expect, if you live north of that cold front that's going to be coming through north or west, be expecting snow. And if you live to the east or south of that cold front, be expecting a whole lot of rain. So Wednesday is where I really want to look at that severe threat, because now we, unlike Tuesday, we don't have the marginal threat anymore. Now we are all at that slight threat, and really the heart of it is that Mississippi-Alabama line. And be prepared, because everywhere within this yellow bubble, you can have these quick spin-up storms, and some of the helicity models are showing maybe a squall line or two. So expect some damaging winds, who knows, maybe even hail. But the big factor here that is guaranteed is a lot of rain. So we're going to see a lot of rain across these areas like we have this year and last year so far. And maybe some severe weather. So, much of western Georgia, I'm going to say that's going to be later in the day probably, of where that, that really bad weather is going to be getting into. But be expecting it in Mississippi and Alabama. If you live in the east part of Mississippi and the west part of Alabama, have your NOAA weather radios ready, and be prepared ahead of time for a possible tornado warning or tornado watch to go up. No doubt, however, some severe storms will be produced, and, you have all this energy there. It's just, where is the storm and how is the storm going to use it? So it's going to be interesting to see what all is happening in that south part of the U.S. So it's always good to be prepared, and it's a good thing that we're seeing this ahead of time rather than it just kind of being sporadic. So that about does it for the end of this first forecast. I want to thank you very much for listening to it. This is our first forecast, so we're working out some of the bugs, and it takes forever to make some of these. So we're just working out, what works and what doesn't. So if you want to check out any of our podcasts, go check those out. That's the EF show. You've probably seen some of the episodes on the cards throughout the forecasts here. But that is your 3-day forecast, and we will expand to a 7-day forecast as soon as what all we want to do for it. So it's going to be a quick process that we are working through. So stay tuned for that. Check out the links. Those are going to be in the description for our social media pages, so you can be notified whenever anything is going on. And check out our YouTube channel for some upcoming educational videos. And always be expecting a Monday forecast, because we're going to be posting those no matter what. Hopefully you enjoyed this 3-day we hope you enjoyed this forecast, and stay tuned for when we do have a 7-day forecast, but in the meantime, always be expecting a forecast. Thank you very much.